Started a brand new series this morning on Titus. I'm not really I haven't been known as a series preacher, but this year I had a goal of teaching a couple series on books of the Bible. And I just started looking at Titus a few weeks ago and just started to fall in love with the book, honestly. It's very straightforward. It steps all over your toes in a lot of different ways. And I really admire Titus as a leader and some of the things that Paul really had to say about him. So this morning, really what I started off was just talking a little bit about Titus and a little bit about where he was ministering, which was this place called Crete. And Crete was an interesting place because it was definitely a place where lots of trading and merchandise happened. It's good to know that back during those New Testament times when the Bible was written in the first few centuries of the church, that most people didn't exchange money. It was mostly exchange of goods. So, what you were good at, I would want, and what I was good at, I would give to you, and we would trade, right? So probably like a great example would be, for us, it would be like, okay, I want to make a recording, so I'm okay at recording and playing guitar. I'm not a drummer, so Nigel, let's trade. I'll do this and you do the drumming, and it kind of worked together. But what's interesting about Crete was all these different cultures, because of where it was in the Mediterranean, all these different cultures would come to Crete to trade, and then they would go out to all these different cultures and trade from there. So to other cultures, which was great for the spreading of the gospel. I mean, what better way to spread the gospel and have a church right in the middle of where all these people were coming in to trade from all these different cultures. But it also presented with its challenges. Crete was known by its own poets. And next week I'm hoping to maybe pull up some literal poems. I want people to see where their own poets called people who were Cretes liars and mockers and people just lacked integrity. And so it was known as a really hard place to do ministry. And so Paul was looking for someone that could pastor Crete. And he knew of this man named Titus, who was a Gentile believer. He had traveled with Paul and helped him start and strengthen many different churches. One of the churches where Paul really saw Titus go for it and do a really great job was in 1 Corinthians, because 1 Corinthians, there was a lot of sexual idolatry going on in there. There was terrible troubles with their services were crazy and chaotic, and outside influences from other cults were making their way into the services. It was not a good situation, and so Paul went in with Titus, and Titus did some ministry there, and they were able to get that church set and doing really well and healthy in a pretty short amount of time. So when Paul was looking for a pastor to place in Crete, Titus, I don't know where he was on the list, but I know he was at the top, and I know that Paul was grateful to have Titus actually doing the work there. And I think that why are the reasons would I choose to do a series like that? And I think number one is I think that we live in a culture right now that is really struggling with a lot of different things. I think that there's a lack of integrity that's out there. I think that a lot of people are struggling with their attitudes. I think that a lot of people are depressed and are down because of just the world and how it flips upside down. It flipped upside down with COVID. Now it's flipping upside down with what's going on overseas with all sorts of stuff as far as foreign affairs. Also, just recently, the new tariffs are kind of a scary thing. It's uncharted space. We're hoping that it's a great decision, but honestly, we really don't know, and most economists probably don't. It's just something we're going to kind of find out as we go along. It's kind of a scary place to be, and Crete was known as having those kinds of things happen too. And as a church, our location right on Madison Street is kind of a hard location to be in because of some of the struggles that are down here. There is a lot of drug addiction. There's a ton of crime. There's a reason we have to have security when our community center is open and even when our church is open, because there's a lot going on. But for me, it all is kind of the same, because if somebody has a hang-up of addiction or a hang-up of crime, I have my own hang-ups I deal with too. And I don't think that God looks at those any differently. So why not have a church where we all come together, bring our hang-ups together, and do our best to kind of grow in our relationship with Christ, So right. I thought, this is a tough place to do ministry, the world we're in, and where we are on the streets. So this is kind of reminds me a little bit of Crete. And then the second thing, the reason that it really kind of jumped out at me was I like what we're doing right now. I really do. I think that the church is in a good groove. I like where we're at, and I want us to keep doing it. And sometimes I think it's easy to start doing something, but to maintain it can kind of get tiring. Mm-hmm. And so through this, I want to just say, you know what, church, I think you guys are doing a great job. Let's keep doing it, you know? And so the three biggest themes that we're going to hit throughout the whole book in Titus is the first theme is strong leadership. You've got to have strong leadership with integrity if you're going to have a church that thrives in a culture that is struggling. I think the second thing is that you have to have strong people. What does it look like to be a strong person in the faith? You know, what does it look like? You know, like when I think of strong people, I think of people that are willing and ready to, when things get kind of hard and a little unstable and shaky, they're the ones that kind of jump in and are like, they, instead of adding to the fire, they put the fire out. I use the example. I know I'm running short on time. You can tell I'm really excited about this series. But, you know, it's like, if somebody came in the church and they started a fire, heaven forbid, because they wanted to do a campfire in the middle of the church, would you come in with another torch and add to the fire, or would you put the fire out, you know? I think that sometimes things happen in churches, and instead of putting fire out, we tend to add more fire to the flame, you know? And then the third thing is good, strong doctrine. So we're going to hit those three over the next 5 or 6 weeks. And I'm really hoping and thinking that it's going to be good, you know. So, and I just threw a lot out there, Nigel, didn't I? Any thoughts on the fly as I was kind of talking about that stuff?
Well, yeah, I know it's late, but
yeah,
I haven't read Titus, so I'm gonna have to go back and read it.
Yeah.
No, obviously, yeah, good. That's all important. Good leadership, good people.
Yeah,
and good doctrine, and
absolutely.
Again, anxious to see where it goes. I'll just
leave
it at that and won't say too much.
It'll be fun. Awesome.